I thank you for coming back to the Tony Montana channel. This channel is the place where the dogs and good men behind them are the stars. We aim to keep the history of the breed alive for future generations. A reminder that all the content in the channel is meant for informational, educational, and historical purposes. We do not condone illegal activities of any kind. We aim to provide free access to factual information about the breed, the dogs of yesteryear, and the people behind the historical dogs. This channel does not aim to sell anything to anyone. We work hard to provide fresh information not found anywhere else. Remember to subscribe, comment, and like the audio video. The only reward we for our time putting this together are your likes to the video. The name of this article is Handling, written by Hihath in his book, Pit Dog Savior. Please support the writer by buying his book online. Now, let us start with the article. The term handling pertains to how the dog is treated verbally and physically. Basically, handling is the period during the match, but school explains how to handle the dog prior to the match and immediately afterwards. Whether a dog is kept in a motel room or vehicle prior to the match, it's very important that the dog be allowed to remain calm. School once had a really good dog called Payday. Payday had come from Ozzie Stevens from Pennsylvania. Payday could not be kept in a kennel. He would go crazy and tear a kennel apart. The only way to keep a dog like that relatively calm is to put him on a leash and stay with him away from other dogs and other things that stimulate him. Fortunately, for dog men, most dogs will rest in their crate providing they can't see or hear other dogs or people. Sometimes music has a calming effect on animals. Common sense tells you that the less energy a dog uses just prior to the match, the more energy he will have during the match. School would begin resting his dog a lot at least 2 days before a match. The last 24 hours or more, the dog would be kept in a kennel box, unless it was a dog that rested better on his chain. Dog men should know their dog well enough to know where the dog is more calm. Once a dog is confined in a dog box, he must be taken out periodically to eliminate. If a dog has been given Azium, dexamethasone, he will need to urinate frequently. Unless a handler knows his dog extremely well and is confident that his dog will not tear up and eat foreign objects, nothing should be in the crate with the dog. No collar, harness, straw, blankets, leash, bowls, or any other foreign objects. Countless times dog men have allowed match dogs to eat unwanted substances just prior to matches. Dogs are routinely fasted before matches to make weight and often decide to tear up and eat things they normally wouldn't have an interest in. In school's younger days, he worked the little patchy female for Kevin Cole and Billy Don. They traveled to see Gary Emmett and go into one of his pure Neblet dogs. Patchy ate an entire loaf of bread that Billy Don left lying out in a motel room the night before the morning match. Patchy lost in 2.5 hours on a hot day. That boo-boo probably made the difference in a close match. Many years ago, when school took his Ben dog to Oklahoma to go into Phil Nibble of New Mexico, school left Ben's leather harness on while Ben was in his kennel box. Ben chewed the leather off and ate the entire harness, buckles and all. Ben won a long hard match with all that in his system. After the match, he vomited part of it up and pooped the rest the next day. School says you just never know when a dog will decide to devour something he's never bothered before. Close supervision prior to competition is very important. When it's time to weigh, it is best to not expose the dog to other dogs or anything that really excites him. Sometimes school would put a towel over his dog's head as a blinder. School always weighed his dogs frequently during keeps to make sure they weren't spooked by being hung on a scale. Most dog men weigh their dog by putting a string around his chest. This method allows for a dog to bobble back and forth. School and some of the more elite pros put another loop around the body so the dog couldn't bob up and down. A lot of matches have been lost because a dog got spooked just prior to a match. Taking a dog into a strange atmosphere, especially an unseasoned dog, can be a bad experience that shuts the dog down emotionally. It can cause a dog to not start and even jump the pit when it's released. Another situation that can be traumatic for a dog is the washing. A wise man like School would occasionally bathe his dogs to get them over fear of being placed in water and have water poured over them. Many foolish dog men allow the bath before their dog's first match to be the first bath ever. Most dogs don't mind, but many don't like it and either squirm excitedly to get out or cower down scared to death. Either way, it's not good. After washing, bringing the dog into the pit can be frightening for some dogs. Sometimes there are large crowds with bright lights and loud noise. This can cause a dog to cower. Dogs almost always forget the distraction once they see their opponent, but some hesitate to get started and this can be a big disadvantage. School always took his dogs into the pit before washing and let them get used to the atmosphere. Another trick School used was letting his dog get locked on the opponent before setting his dog down. Locked on means zeroed in. School would hold his dog facing his opponent and walk over to his opponent's dog and let his dog become aware of his opponent so that he would block out all distractions and stay locked on while being sat down and waiting for the ref to command pit your dog. No one taught School any of this. He learned by doing and was truly a professor of the game. Another important part of handling is waiting in the pit for the opponent. If a dog is not locked onto his opponent, chances are he's going to get busted in his own corner by his opponent. Normally both dogs are very eager to fight, after all, that is what they are bred for, and nature should be calling. Often dogs will be squealing with desire to go. For those of you who attend greyhound races, you know what I mean. The greyhounds in their starting boxes are squealing and screaming with desire to go, and many pit dogs do the same. Although, this isn't a proof of gameness when it's at the beginning of a match. Only if a dog has taken a beating and gotten tired, then screamed for more, would this be a signal of gameness. In the beginning, the screaming to fight is only proof of willingness and desire to fight. The humaniacs and lawmen would have you believe that someone did something to these dogs to make them that way by mistreating them, forcing them to fight or drugging them. Keep in mind these are the same people that are picketing Bass Pro Shop for selling live bait and putting hard-working tax-paying dog men in prison for longer terms than a lot of thieves, child molesters, and deadbeat dads. If only they'd spend their money and time protecting and helping neglected children. Think how much better off this country would be if the humane societies spent those billions on kids and the law spent their time putting deadbeat parents to work and made them support their kids instead of living off welfare system. What a genius idea. Ever read Animal Farm? Consider it. If you're thinking what I'm thinking, next time instead of donating money to a humane society or an animal shelter, give your money to St. Jude's, United Way, Red Cross, something humane. Point taken. Back to the handling. As soon as the referee says pit or release your dog, the handler must release his dog so that the dogs meet in the middle. The dog with a head start gains more speed and momentum. When the dogs begin wrestling, a handler should stay near his dog at all times. Usually, it's many minutes before a turn is made, and unless there is a fanged dog or someone concedes, there will be no physical handling of the dogs. There are matches that take hours for a turn to be called, and there has been matches where there never was a turn. In these unusual cases, it could end up a draw where both handlers agree that the dogs should be picked up. Or, one handler could ask for a scratch to continue. One dog or both may become so tired or even damaged that he lies motionless in hold. If a handler asks for a scratch to continue and the other handler agrees to it, the referee will hand braking sticks to both dog men and dogs will be separated. The handler that asked for the scratch to continue must scratch his dog. Handlers are given a sponge and allowed 30 seconds in the corner under School's rules. If that dog scratches, the handlers begin looking for out-of-hold periods to make a handle. The handler that asked for the scratch to continue must scratch his dog again. After that, Scratching is alternated respectively. Handlers should remain near their dogs at all times. They should not be talking to the crowd and paying close attention. Handlers should constantly be inspecting their dogs for things including wounds, fangs, breathing rate, and mentality. Mentality in this case is frame of mind. A dog should be thoroughly enjoying himself, wagging his tail, and doing his best. If he's not enjoying himself, he may be wanting to quit. A handler must know his dog well enough to recognize what kind of encouragement the dog needs. School would speak softly to his dogs when they were on the defensive side, letting them know that he was there and smoothly telling them he was pleased with them. Example, saying he's a good boy in a soft soothing tone. But when the pendulum swings and School's dog became on offense, he had a unique squall that he used that sounded like a coon and slash or cat squeal. He would beat on the carpet or clap his hands excitedly while making that squall. This is the same thing he would do to excite his dogs while working them during the keep. School was such a master dog man that he knew and used the same sounds in the keep as in the match, thus allowing him to communicate soothing relaxed feelings or anxious aggressive feelings that turn dogs on. School is one of few dog men that actually talk dog. No one else understood their dogs as well or communicated with them on his level. When one dog is fighting much more aggressively than the other, a handler should be doing what he can to increase his dog's aggressiveness. This is known as sending him in. School had a remarkable method of sending his dogs in because of the unusual level that he communicated with his dogs. School could psychologically comfort his dog as well as pump them for more aggression. He not only was a genius at this, he also knew how and when to discourage the opponent's dog. Any dog that had School for a handler had an advantage, especially if School put that dog through his keep and developed a rapport with him. After a turn has been called and the physical handling is to begin, the referee will remind handlers to handle your dogs when they're free. Handlers normally follow their dogs around talking to them. Handlers should place themselves in a position close to the dog's back and neck so they can reach down and snatch their dog by the loose skin on the back of his neck as soon as both dogs are out of hold. Many dog men use a little so-called strategy to gain an advantage. Often a handler will take his time getting a handle when it's his opponent's turn to scratch. On the other hand, some handlers will try to make a quick handle when it is their own turn to scratch. This strategy is called getting the scratch off your back. If a handler flagrantly delays handling his dog when it's his opponent's turn to scratch, a foul can be called by the referee. It's at the ref's discretion. A slick handler like School or the bushwhacker can make a quick handle when their dog is lying down, which is called taking the bottom. Skilled handlers have a lot of tricks that are legal and can give them a slight edge. Things like being slow to handle when his dog is on top of the opponent. Some guys even fake an attempt to handle when they know their dog is in hold. This jerks the other dog. Wise guys like Wilbert would act like their dog was out of hold when he was lying down getting whipped and grab him and set him on his feet, because when a handler attempts to handle and the dog suddenly resume holds, the referee tells the handlers to set the dogs back down. Wilbert would try to make this look totally innocent, but School and other seasoned dog men knew exactly what he was up to. Normally a referee won't foul a dog man out unless the foul is extremely flagrant. There are more tricks of the trade made when the dogs are handled and taken to their corners. Handlers have 25 seconds in the corner to inspect dogs, then the ref says 25, face them up, feet on the line. During that 25 seconds, handlers busily inspect for wounds, check breathing rate, check for fangs and loose teeth. At the same time, a handler is using a sponge to cool and refresh his dog. He may even apply pressure to a wound with his hands to slow bleeding. Some rules require the handler to keep his dog's head in the corner, not letting him turn around and look at the other dog. School's rules do not require a dog to keep head turned in the corner. Letting a dog tum and peek at his opponent keeps his attention focused on his opponent. Dogs can get distracted by sponge, crowd, etc. while being kept in the corner. Some handlers shake their dogs and slash or talk to them while in the corner, trying to keep their dog's mind on the match to assure that they will scratch. At 25 seconds the ref commands, face them up. He also signifies which dog's turn it is to scratch. Normally, he will say the name of the handler or dog, or the color of the dog whose turn it is. Example, the ref says red dog's turn to go or schoolteacher's tum to go. When the handler whose turn it is to scratch turns his dog around, he wants to be sure his dog is paying attention to his opponent. When the ref says pit or release your dog, he can no longer touch his dog. He may clap his hands and talk to his dog. The opposite handler has decisions to make at that point. He has the option to hold his dog still and wait for the other dog to come all the way over or release his dog so he meets his opponent in the middle. If a handler is being scratched into, it is to his advantage to let his dog go and meet his opponent in the middle, if he knows the other dog will scratch hard. It is a disadvantage to hold a dog and let him get busted in the corner. On the other hand, if a handler has doubts about whether his opponent's dog is coming all the way over to resume fighting, he should hold his dog as still as possible and hope that the other dog doesn't come within the allowed time, which could be anywhere from 10 to 20 seconds, depending on the agreement before the match. Letting a dog move, growl, bark, or scream to fight more, will sometimes encourage the opponent to scratch. I hope you enjoyed this informative article. If you want more content like this one, make sure to press the like button and subscribe to the Tony Montana channel. Until next time.